که حتی تمام این اسفنکس ها رو زیر آوار خودش گم کرده باشه. اما از قدیمترین توصیف ها و تصویرها و نقاشی هایی که ما از این محوطه داریم، این محوطه همین اسفنکس ها و همین ستون ها فقط دیده میشه بدون یک سطل آوار.
Meanwhile, if we look at the complex, we will notice the surrounding clay walls are all new and have been added to the complex in the course of recent reconstruction work. In fact, not reconstruction, but somehow deceiving the viewer by suggesting the idea that the site used to have wall around it, whereas not even a small piece of ruins could be found there. Take a look at the borders on this doorway. Borders have been carved along the doorway in order to give a form to the exterior, but the remaining work have remained unfinished. If we suppose that the inside wall of the doorway were made of clay, we will notice no sign of mortar used inside them. Steel cuttings which were made by masons on the inside part of the doorway to give a form to it are clearly visible, so that if the doorway were possibly attached to the walls, all the signs would have been destroyed. If we take another look at the doorway, we will find out that masons were hollowing out the doorway. But even the frame was not completed and corners of the blocks were not flattened either. But the important point is the third gate of sight. In fact, this place was expected to have a third gateway which would have been opened toward the Apodina Hall. But construction works were abandoned in the early stages. Given that the width of this gateway is about 1 meter more than the other two gates, therefore it should have been allocated for ceremonial purposes. But no decorative works such as sphinxes or other works that are seen in the other two gates could be seen here. From technical point of view, by examining stones of the doorway, we can reach the conclusion that nothing has been put over the stones. At this gateway, only stones of the doorway and those of the pivots have been laid, and the remaining work has been abandoned. However, with regards to the remains which have been left in the area, we can guess the shape of the gateway. Look at this cubic-shaped piece of stone. By coming closer to it, we can realize that stone cutters were working on it, and apparently the upper edges were to be cut in the shape of palm leaves. Example of this pattern could also be seen over the second gate of all nations, and later all throughout Persepolis. Furthermore, beneath these palm leaves patterns, stone cutters had been carving rope designs which are not complete. The lower part of the stone is untouched and has not been carved. But the point which draws the attention all throughout Persepolis is that there are parts where cutting works needed only a few minutes to be completed, but with great surprise they've been abandoned unfinished. Had the cutting works finished on this piece, it would have been installed as a crown over the third doorway of the Gate of All Nations. This can be even better understood from the distance between this block of stone and the third doorway. The distance would have been filled with sand to make a hill over which the stone would have been rolled up to the top of the doorway. It should be noted that in order to facilitate transfer of the stone to its final destination, they would hollow it up from the inside. It is for this reason that today the stone is called a pond.
اما مهمترین مسئله اینه که شما در این محوطه میانی دروازه ورودی که با 4 تا ستون داشته باشید، در طول زمان فقط 2 تا ستون دیده شده. بعدها که اومدن اینو تعمیراتی کردن و به اصطلاح کار که حفاری توش انجام شد و ترمیم انجام شد و شکل دهی انجام شد، از خورده ریزای اطراف هم یه نیم ستون دیگه درست کردن و هنوز هم ستون 4م نداره چون بقایایی نداشته.
Here it should be further clarified that cement has been used in the rehabilitation of the 2-column pedestals which used to be posted in this area. But in the pedestal of the 3rd column, or the same column which was later rehabilitated, cuttings have been made by the help of the machine. However, the pedestal which shows the quality of the stone is the same one over which no column has been placed. The subject will become even more interesting when we take a look at the bottom of the columns that are erected here. Bottoms of the columns are flat in some instances, while they are half cut in the others. Even the cuts made by the chisels could be traced in some parts. Coming out of the second gateway, we notice some gravels on the ground. By examining these stone pieces, we will find out that cutting works on these pieces have not been finished yet. Look at the edge of this piece of stone where carving is unfinished. Apparently, edges were cut in the final stages of the work so that the stone would not be chipped. With regard to the place where stone pieces are scattered as well as the shape of these pieces, it can be understood that these stones belong to the crown of the second gateway of the Gate of All Nations. No one can claim that these stone pieces have been dropped from the top of the gateway, as the pieces have not been completed to be transferred to the top of the gateway. Even the process of work and the type of the chisels can be seen on the stone pieces. As you've already seen, the first and second gateways were in their place and their remains were scattered around them. But the third gateway, construction of which had not been started yet, is devoid of any remains except for the crown which was being cut. Finally, attention should be paid to the flooring of the site and other parts of Persepolis. The flooring has not been implemented, which looks normal as the site has still been under construction. This is a point which is noticed even at the time of leaving the second gateway and proceeding towards the Hall of 100 Columns and later throughout Persepolis.
ببینید از دروازه به